Today I'll share with you the echo enhancing strategy I used to beat Wuthering waves in 7 days. And the best part? It's so simple. Let's get started. On your screen, you'll see a rough overview of what sets characters want to run. You can pause the video when you see your respective character to see what sets every character uses as of the anniversary patch. There's a bit more nuance here than what I'm showing, so if you're interested in specific recommendations for characters and comps, feel free to ask me either on my daily live streams or on Discord. Link in the description. Let's touch on echo setups and their main stats. You'll often hear people talk about something called 43311 or 44111, which refers to the cost of the echoes you will be using. You can see the cost of these various echoes either in the databank or on the echo selection menu. Overworld bosses are 4 costs, overworld elites are 3 costs, and the baby monsters are 1 cost. All echoes have a chance to roll various main stats based on these costs. 1 cost can only roll percent HP, percent attack, or percent defense, so in the early game, these are the easiest to farm. 3 costs are not only able to roll everything that 1 cost can, but they can also roll every damage percent in the game, as well as energy regen. 3 costs are generally the hardest to acquire due to how many stats there are. Side note, I'd recommend using your main stat selectors on these. Trust me, it's a big time saver. 4 costs can roll percent attack, percent HP, and percent defense just like 1 cost, but also have the chance to roll crit rate, crit damage, or healing bonus. As of writing this guide, every DPS or sub DPS wants to use either crit rate or crit damage as their 4 cost. No exceptions. If you enhance anything else, you're probably rage baiting me on an account review. Which one you will want will depend on how much crit rate your character gets from their weapons, set effects, character buffs such as Shorekeeper, and passive skill trees. To make this more simple for casual players, if you have 2 sources of crit rate outside of your echo substats, you probably want crit damage as your main stat. In the case of my Camellia here, for example, she has crit rate from her signature, crit damage from her nodes, and I'm not running Shorekeeper, so I went for a crit rate main stat. This puts her at a lovely ratio of almost 85-50. For healers, Shorekeeper goes HP or crit damage, Baisha goes HP, and Rhinne goes nothing because enhancing anything here is a waste of your tubes. I promise you she does not need the stats. 3 costs are pretty simple. DPS characters either want damage percent of their element or attack percent, with Brant as the exception wanting some combination of energy recharge or damage percent based on his weapon. But this isn't a Brant video. Sorry, Brant. Double damage percent is generally the best option, but it varies from character to character. If you're lazy and you don't want to do research into which is best for their character relative to their weapon, just know that running double damage percent will only be about 1 substat of damage loss on the characters it isn't Bison. Well, besides Brant. So it's not really a game changer. If you're interested in learning more, I'd recommend checking out Meiji's character guides. She goes into depth about breakpoints for when one stat is better than another, including with signatures and constellations if you have a bank account I could only dream of. Most sub DPS follow the same exact rules as main DPS characters wanting double damage percent, but some will need extra energy regen if you can't hit it from substats, such as Contarello. This will be team dependent, so I can't really give blanket recommendations here. Healers want double energy regen on the 3 costs. That's easy enough. 1 costs are super simple. Every DPS and sub DPS, with the exception of Yuan Wu and Dao Chi, wants attack percent. The 2 mentioned want defense percent. Healers go HP or attack. Not really much nuance there. Substats sound way more complicated than they really are, so I'll make them simple. When leveling echoes, you can obtain substats every 5 levels via tuning. Every echo, no matter the cost, will roll the same pool of substats. Once you get a substat, you can't roll it again for that piece. It's worth noting you can roll the same stat on both the main stat and substat, so a piece with crit rate as its main stat can have a crit rate substat, unlike other gacha games. The substats you can roll are shown on your screen. You'll notice that they have ranges on here as well. Anytime you hit one of these stats, they'll roll somewhere between these ranges at fixed values. Warning, I will now give you a Substat Priority list, which is mainly intended to make sure you don't break your account. While this will be applicable for 90% of the cast, there are certain characters that have requirements such as energy recharge that won't be listed here. If you're interested in learning more, please look up your individual character. This is not a character guide. General substat priority for most DPS and sub DPS characters are as follows. Crit rate is going to be greater than or equal to crit damage, which is greater than attack, which is greater than your highest damage bonus, that is if it's a basic attack unit, basic attack percent, which is equal to flat attack. Energy regen is important on many characters to hit specific breakpoints, but these will depend on comps. What I'd say is a general rule is that hitting 2 rolls or so on your entire echo sets should be good enough in most cases. Once again, this is a general list, so some characters such as Contarella and Jeshe are going to have different requirements. I recommend looking into these further if you want to learn more about the game. Healers in this game pretty much only care about hitting energy recharge, so I would just aim for one of those on every piece, and then outside of that, it doesn't really matter. In fact, I'd recommend saving the tubes there to enhance on your DPS even more. Speaking of enhancing, I'm going to give you a very simple echo enhancing method backed by math to make sure you get your optimal echo setup, and it's easy to remember. That method is 1415 or 2425. That made no sense to you, so I'll go ahead and explain now. The first number on these is how many times we are rolling for either crit rate or crit damage as a stat. In the case of 1-4, we are rolling once for either crit rate or crit damage, and if it doesn't hit, we bin the piece completely. If it does hit, you either go to 4 or 5 on the piece. The math says they're about the same in terms of tube efficiency, so what I would do is if I hit some pretty good rolls, I would continue enhancing to 5. For example, if I hit crit rate, attack percent, flat HP, and a good damage percent for my character, maybe I would go to 5 on that. Whereas if I hit a low crit rate roll and then a bunch of flat HP and defense, I would just bin that piece. 2-4 and 2-5 are the same exact thing, except you go to 2 instead of 1 for the piece. That means we go roll twice for crit rate or crit damage. If it hits, we continue to either 4 or 5, depending on the rolls. And if it doesn't hit, we just throw the piece away. Going for only 1 roll here is more tube efficient, but costs more echoes. So if you're a more casual player who doesn't want to grind, I would suggest doing 2-4 or 2-5. The difference in tube and tuner EXP is not that massive. You can also do a variation of this on the 1-4 method, where you roll once for not only crit rate or crit damage, but also a good damage roll for your character. And if that hits, you go to the second one. This will be a little bit more efficient in terms of your echoes, and it'll make sure that when you're going to either 4 or 5, you'll have at least one better roll. This is the same method I used to beat Tower on a fresh account in 7 days. That video is coming out soon, so make sure you subscribe to see it. I promise it'll be a banger. What better way to teach than showcasing some examples of exactly how to do that? So let's go ahead and do that now. As you can see, I'm enhancing the Havoc Midnight set. This is going to be for my Contarella. So she has Havoc damage bonus here, which is going to be her best. What I want to do here is I either want to go to 5 or 10, depending on how many tubes I'm comfortable spending, and if I want to be more tube efficient or less tube efficient. This account already clears the entirety of endgame, so I'm not really too concerned about being tube efficient here, as if I miss, it's not a big deal. So I'll go to 10 over here. We'll roll twice. It hit HP and liberation damage. Liberation isn't the worst. The problem is neither of these rolls are crit, and those are what we are fishing for here. So I rolled twice, did not hit crit. This piece, it gets binned. One tip you can do is there's actually a suggested bar over here, and you can go ahead and sort by suggested items for your characters. We go to 10 once again, and then we see, does it hit? Basic attack and attack percent. No reason for me to continue there. I'm aiming for crit rate and crit damage. What do we hit? HP defense. Okay, so this is a pretty average session for me. I'm not going to hit anything. I don't know. Does this make for a good showcase? I'm not really sure. Crit rate energy regen. So I mentioned it before. Contarella is actually a character that really needs energy regen, so this is amazing. I'm going to go to 4 here, but it's pretty likely I'll end up going to 5 on this piece anyway. One thing you'll notice I'm doing is I'm trying to make it so the EXP is as close to exactly hitting that threshold as possible when using my tubes. If you use the autofill function, it'll end up eating more EXP than necessary for you to get to that level. What do we get? Crit damage, okay, and it's a big one too. So we hit on that piece, that's amazing. And it has energy recharge on here as well. Normally I'd pop off, but it's actually like 5 AM when I'm recording this, so I don't really want to wake people up. We had HP on the last one, that's unfortunate, but this is a really good piece. And you can see, I only went through a few once to be able to check to make sure I could get a double crit on here. By using my tubes efficiently, I was able to get a very good piece in a very small amount of time. I hope this is helpful for you all. If you want to see me get into the nitty gritty of fixing other people's accounts, I highly recommend checking out my account reviews. They're a mix of roasting people as well as being informative. So either funny or educational, or honestly most of the time just both. Check them out over here, I don't know, wherever I put it. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.